This guy's wedding turned into a total disaster because of one petty decision from the bride. And trust me, that's just the beginning. We've got cheating scandals, family betrayals, and relationship chaos coming your way. So get ready, because today's AITA stories are wild. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to AITA Chronicles, the home of the messiest, most jaw-dropping Reddit AITA stories. If you love drama, tough moral dilemmas, and situations that make you scream, "What were they thinking?" you're in the right place. We're on the road to 10K subscribers, and every single one of you watching helps us get there. So hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive into today's madness. Am I the asshole for leaving my friend's wedding early because I wasn't allowed a +1? All right, let's set the scene. The writer, a 32-year-old guy, is invited to his friend Emma's wedding. Weddings are a big deal, a celebration of love, friends, family. It's supposed to be a night of joy. And naturally, when the writer gets the invitation, he's excited. But then he notices something odd: no +1. Now, that might not be a big deal if he were single, but he's been with his boyfriend, his serious long-term boyfriend, for almost 2 years. And here's the kicker: Emma knows him. They've met multiple times, and by all accounts, they've gotten along just fine. So what's the deal? The writer decides to ask Emma about it, casually, not accusing, just trying to understand. And she gives him the standard "weddings are expensive" excuse. Apparently, only married couples were getting +1s. Huh. A little outdated, sure, but okay. The writer doesn't push it. It's her wedding, her rules. But here's where things take a turn. The day of the wedding arrives, and the writer steps into the venue expecting a beautiful, love-filled evening. But instead, red flag number 1 smacks him right in the face. Tons of people have +1s. And not just spouses, some aren't even in relationships. So, what happened to the budget restrictions? Where did that rule magically disappear to? At first, he tries to brush it off. It's awkward, but whatever. He's here for his friend, right? But then people start asking about his boyfriend. Where is he? Why didn't he come? Because, logically, everyone assumed he'd be there. And now the writer has to stand there awkwardly explaining that nope, he wasn't invited. And then comes the absolute bombshell. A mutual friend pulls the writer aside and lets him in on the real reason his boyfriend wasn't invited. And let me tell you, it is absolutely ridiculous. Apparently, Emma deliberately left him out. Not because of budget, not because of some seating chart issue, but because, get this, she thought his boyfriend was too perfect. Too perfect. She actually believed that his boyfriend was so charming, so effortlessly likable, that he'd make her new husband look bad by comparison. I mean, what? How insecure do you have to be to uninvite someone because they're too nice? We're not even talking about some attention-seeking drama magnet. This guy is just a polite, friendly, normal person. And that's a problem. At this point, the writer isn't even mad, just shocked. He thought Emma and his boyfriend got along fine. He never imagined she'd actually be threatened by someone just being a decent person. So now, sitting at this wedding, he's not just uncomfortable, he's straight up not welcome. And when you feel that way, what's the point of staying? So, after the dinner and speeches, the writer makes a quiet exit. No drama, no confrontation, just a quick congrats text to Emma and he's gone. Seems reasonable, right? Well, Emma did not think so. The next day, she's furious, blowing up his phone, accusing him of making her wedding about himself just because he left early. And then she throws in this wild excuse. "I just didn't want your boyfriend to take the spotlight on my big day." Like what? Who was going to be staring at him? The man was just going to eat the food, dance, and be polite like any other guest. It's not like he was going to grab the mic and start performing a solo ballad. Emma was so caught up in her own insecurity that she completely disrespected her friendship with the writer. So now, the question remains, is the writer the asshole for leaving? No, absolutely not. He didn't make a scene, didn't cause drama, didn't even confront Emma about her nonsense on her wedding day. He simply recognized that he wasn't truly welcome and quietly left. That's way more mature than most people would have been in that situation. If anything, Emma is the one who made her wedding about someone else, because instead of focusing on her husband and the love they were supposed to be celebrating, she was fixated on the presence of one guy she found too charming. So no, the writer is not the asshole. Emma, on the other hand, that's some next level insecurity. And honestly, if her new husband looks bad just because another man exists in the same room, then that's a way bigger issue than a wedding invite. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay for my boyfriend's bro night after he put me on the spot? Oh, this one is already juicy? And the update? Yeah, we're getting into some breakup level drama today. So let's get into it. The writer, a 24-year-old woman, has been dating her now ex-boyfriend, 26M, for about a year. And like most guys, he has his sacred bro nights. You know the deal. Drinks, poker, trash talk, and just general male bonding. And to be clear, the writer has never had an issue with this. She's not one of those partners who tries to interfere or make a big deal out of it. She's totally fine doing her own thing while he hangs with his friends. But this past Friday, this is where things take a turn. They're out at dinner having what should be a normal chill night. Then his friends call. Poker night is on, drinks are flowing, and of course, he's in. No problem, right? But then he pulls a move that would make any sane person's jaw drop. Right in front of his friends, he casually turns to the writer and drops, "Babe, you got this, right?" Meaning the entire bill. Now, imagine being in this situation. You're mid-dinner, thinking everything is normal, and suddenly you're expected to pay for both of you with zero warning in front of an audience. And just when you think that's the worst of it, he keeps going. "And can you send me some money for drinks? I'm kinda low on cash." Excuse me. Now, let's pause for a second. Asking your partner to cover a meal once in a while? Totally normal. Financial rough patches? It happens. But the way he did this, in front of his friends with zero warning, as if it was just expected, that's not a rough patch. That's pure entitlement. And then to make things even worse, his friends start laughing and hyping him up. "Yeah, take care of your man." Oh, so this is a thing. At this point, the writer is put in an impossible position. Either she gives in and hands him money, letting his friends laugh at her expense, or she stands her ground and risks making things awkward. And let me just say, she handled this like a queen. She simply says, "Nope, I think you got it. Make drop." And just like that, the whole dynamic shifts. Boyfriend gets quiet. He realizes this is not going the way he planned. And instead of laughing along with his friends, he actually has to pay for himself. Oh, the horror. He pays his half and leaves. But this dude isn't done. Later that night, he texts her, saying she embarrassed him in front of his friends and made him look like he doesn't wear the pants in the relationship. You kidding me? Let's break this down. He ambushes her for money in front of his friends with zero warning, and somehow she's the bad guy? At this point, the writer is done playing games. She tells him straight up, she's totally happy to treat him sometimes, but she will not be put on the spot like that. Especially not when it's for him to go out without her. Now the boyfriend is sulking, his friends are joking that he lost his sponsor, and boom, relationship over. And honestly, good. Because let's be real, this was never about money. This was about control. He wanted to look good in front of his friends, to have this little moment of my girl pays for me without even considering her feelings. And when she didn't play along, suddenly she's the problem. So, is the writer the asshole? Absolutely not. If anything, she just dodged a major bullet, because if a guy is comfortable putting you in that position, pressuring you for money in front of his friends, imagine what else he'd feel entitled to down the line. And the fact that his friends immediately turned her into a joke, yeah, this breakup was inevitable. So to the writer, congratulations. You're officially free from a man-child who thought dating meant having a personal ATM. And to the ex, hope those poker winnings can cover your next meal. Am I the asshole for flashing my mother-in-law after she told me not to breastfeed my baby in my own house? Oh, this one is a ride. Right off the bat, let's make one thing crystal clear. Ryder just had a baby. That means she's running on fumes, exhausted, and quite literally keeping a tiny human alive. And if you've ever been around a new parent, you know that sleep is a myth. Personal space is a distant memory, and feeding the baby? That's non-negotiable. But apparently, mother-in-law didn't get that memo. So let's set the scene. The writer is home, minding her business, probably running on 3 hours of sleep and coffee fumes, when her mother-in-law shows up unannounced. And not to visit the baby. Oh no, she's here to pick some things from the garden, chat, and make herself comfortable. Now, the writer is a good sport about it. She lets her do her thing, and they all end up watching TV together. No big deal. Baby starts fussing. And here's where the nonsense begins. Like any normal mother, the writer does what she has to do. She pulls down her top and starts nursing her child. In her own home. And cue the dramatics, because Mill whips her head around like she just witnessed a crime. She huffs, she scoffs, and then she hits the writer with the most ridiculous line imaginable. Really? Around me? I'll just get naked too and have it all hanging out, huh? I mean, what? Because let's be real, how do you even respond to that? First off, breastfeeding is not nudity. It's not the same as stripping down for fun. It's not some attention-seeking act. It's literally feeding a baby, something that every human society on Earth has accepted for thousands of years. But this isn't even the first time Mill has pulled this stunt. Nope. Last time she made a comment, the writer actually went into another room just to keep the peace. And then, to make things even more frustrating, her husband tried to help by getting her a cover, which, shocker, the baby hates. So this time, the writer is done. She's tired, she's over it, she's got no patience left. And in a moment of pure, sleep-deprived, fed-up energy, she rips off her entire top, stands up and stares Mill down. And then she delivers the line that belongs in a movie. I'll feed my baby when I want, in my house. Absolute, Mike. Stunned. She just sits there, probably regretting all her life choices. And to really drive the point home, the writer follows up with a final knockout punch. If you don't like it, you can leave. And Mill does exactly that, but not before grumbling to herself like a cartoon villain. I can't believe this girl. And then she storms out. Now let's talk about the aftermath. The writer's husband, he was right there the whole time watching this slow motion train wreck unfold. And his reaction? You didn't have to go that far. Oh, buddy, you are so wrong. Because let's be honest, Mill is the one who took it too far. If she didn't want to see breastfeeding, she could have looked away. If she felt uncomfortable, she could have left. But instead, she chose to shame a new mother for doing the most natural thing in the world in her own home. And let's not forget the real kicker. This wasn't just some casual complaint. She compared it to full-on public nudity. Mill wasn't just uncomfortable, she wanted control. She wanted to dictate when, where, and how the writer could feed her own baby. And that's the real issue here. So now the big question, is the writer the asshole? Absolutely not. If anything, she gave Emil exactly the reaction she deserved, because sometimes people need a reality check. And if that check comes in the form of a sleep-deprived, half-dressed new mom telling you to get the hell out of her house, so be it. Aitah, I'm a double affair baby who was rejected by both sets of siblings, so I say I'm an only child. This one a tough pill to swallow, a real heartbreaker of a story, and it dives into the kind of family drama that leaves scars you don't just get over. The writer, a 25-year-old man, opens up about his life as a double affair baby. And right from the start, this story throws you into the deep end. So here's the deal. The writer's parents were both married to other people when they got caught up in affairs with each other. After their divorces were finalized, they ended up marrying each other and raising the writer together. Now, on paper, it might sound like a fresh start, right? But reality hit a lot harder than that. The writer's half-siblings, the kids from his parents' previous marriages, had no interest in him. I mean, no interest. They weren't distant or just a little uncomfortable. They rejected him outright. Can you even imagine what that feels like? being born into a family that already existed, but being told you're not a part of it. From a young age, the writer faced the kind of coldness that most people never have to experience from their own family. He was not accepted, not just once, but over and over again. It wasn't just silence or disapproval. One of his siblings straight up told him that the world would be a better place if he had never been born. That's gut-wrenching stuff right there. Fast forward to the writer being 9 years old, and his siblings are all moved out, leaving him behind in a house that should have felt like home but never did. From that point on, he barely saw them. And when he did, it was clear they didn't want him there. Now here's where it gets even more complicated. In spite of all this rejection, the writer didn't beg for their love or approval. He didn't waste his time trying to force a bond that was never there. Instead, he made a simple but powerful choice. When people ask him about his siblings, he says he's an only child. And can we blame him? No. Why would he pretend to have siblings who don't even acknowledge his existence? When he talks about family, he's not lying. He's simply cutting out all the hurt and moving on from relationships that were never meant to be. But of course, there are always those people who think they know better, right? Enter the writer's fiance's cousin. This guy, who was once the writer's childhood friend, suddenly has an issue with the writer calling himself an only child. Now, keep in mind, this is the same guy who, for years, wasn't even in the picture. But when he finds out about the writer's stance, he has to call it out at a family gathering. That's childish, he says. That's a lie. You're still their sibling. Wait, what? Where was this guy when the writer was being emotionally shut out? Where was he when those siblings told him he wasn't welcome? Oh, that's right. He wasn't there. So now, after years of non-contact, he's acting like he has the right to dictate how the writer should feel about family. That's just rich. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, the writer's extended relatives start chiming in too. Some of them are telling him that he could avoid awkwardness in the future if he just acknowledged his siblings. They say there's still a chance for things to change, that maybe one day the relationship could improve. But let's be real. These relatives are living in a fantasy. The writer has been rejected for 25 years. If these people wanted a relationship with him, they had plenty of chances, and they chose not to take them. So why should the writer keep pretending that he has a family that never wanted him? At the end of the day, the writer made a decision that so many of us are too afraid to make. He's letting go of the idea of family that never existed for him. He's embracing the reality of being an only child because that's the truth of his situation, and he's doing it for his own peace of mind. So, Aitah for saying he's an only child? Not even close. The writer has spent his whole life being rejected, being told he's not part of the family, and being forced to live with a label he didn't ask for. So if he wants to call himself an only child, that's his right, because family isn't just about blood, it's about who's actually there for you, who loves you, and who accepts you no matter what. And the writer, he's got that. He's got himself. So, to the writer, you are absolutely not the asshole. You're just living your truth, and that's something we should all strive to do. Am I the asshole for breaking up with my boyfriend after he took the condom off? Oh, wow. This one is loaded. We're diving straight into the heart of relationship boundaries, trust, and personal autonomy. And let me tell you, when the writer says she's shocked, you feel it. The writer 19F is living with her boyfriend 29M in Texas. Things have been going fine, or at least that's what she thought. When it comes to intimacy, they've always had one rule: they use condoms. A basic agreement, right? No birth control on her end. And that's something they both agreed upon, something they trusted each other with. Now, this is where the story turns from everything's fine to wait, what just happened? Because last night changed everything. They're being intimate, just like any other night. The writer is on top, doing her thing, when suddenly everything shifts. Without warning, her boyfriend flips her over. And here's where things get strange. As they reach the end of the act, the boyfriend pulls out, but something's off. The writer notices immediately something doesn't feel right. She looks and realizes he's not wearing a condom anymore. Wait, what? She panics. The writer asks him the obvious question, where is it? And what's his response? It feels better without it, hold on. Just think about that for a second. He didn't ask for her opinion. He didn't even give her a heads up. He just did it without her consent. And to make things even worse, when she presses him, asking when he took it off, his response? A while ago. So this is not just a casual mistake. This was a deliberate decision he made without her knowledge, without her permission. And let's be real here, without even thinking about what it might mean for her. Imagine the betrayal. This wasn't just a condom being removed. This was her trust being stripped away, one decision at a time. Naturally, the writer is furious. She tells him, "You never asked me." She's not only mad about the condom being removed, but about the total disregard for her feelings in the moment. And to make it worse, he asks her, "Did you enjoy the feeling more?" Are you kidding me? It's as if her comfort and trust are just secondary to his desire for pleasure. That's the thing about boundaries. They're not just about rules. They're about respect. And right here, her boyfriend crossed a major line. After the heated exchange, the writer takes a long shower to process everything. She needs space to cool down, to wrap her head around what just happened. And when she comes back to bed, her boyfriend apologizes. He says he won't do it again. But here's the million-dollar question. Can an apology fix this? Because, honestly, how do you come back from something like that? How do you look at your partner the same way after they violated your trust so openly? Is an apology enough when it's something as serious as consent? The writer is now left questioning everything. She's unsure whether she can continue to trust him, especially after he made a choice that directly impacted her health, her peace of mind, and her body. So the writer wonders, am I the asshole for considering breaking up with him over this? For not being able to look past what he did, no matter how much he apologizes? The answer is simple, and I'll be honest, no, she is not the asshole. What happened here is not a small mistake. It's a violation of trust. She never agreed to what he did. She didn't consent. And while he may have apologized, the bigger issue is that he thought his own desires came before her boundaries. That's not just an oops moment. That's a fundamental lack of respect. And honestly, if the writer chooses to walk away from this relationship, that's her right, her body, her boundaries. Anyone who doesn't respect that doesn't deserve in her life, no matter how many apologies they offer. So to the writer, you're not the asshole here. If anything, you're doing what's best for yourself. No one has the right to push you into something you didn't agree to. Trust is everything. And once it's broken, it's hard to rebuild. And to her boyfriend, well, buddy, let this be a lesson. You can't just remove something without asking. Consent goes both ways. Next time, maybe think before you act. Am I the asshole for refusing to call my sister's baby by his full name? Oh, this is one of those stories where you can just feel the family tension brewing. And honestly, the writer is stuck in a situation that is way more ridiculous than it should be. So let's set the scene. The writer's sister, 30F, and her husband recently welcomed a baby into the world. Beautiful moment, right? A new life, a new family member, everything should be joyful. But instead, we have a full-blown name war going down. Because when I tell you this child's name is extravagant, I mean extravagant. Think something like Maximilian Octavius Peregrine. That's not the real name, but trust me, it's on that level. You see a name like that, and immediately you know this kid is either destined for greatness or a lifetime of spelling it out for customer service reps. Now, as with most long, fancy names, the natural thing happens. People start shortening it. The family lovingly starts calling him Max because, well, it's easier, it's cute, it's what people do. But oh no, his mother is not having it. She insists that everyone must always address him by his full name, every time. No exceptions. And when I say she's serious, I mean serious. Picture this, the writer casually admiring his nephew. Ah, look at little Max. His sister, stone-faced, possibly offended on a spiritual level. It's Maximilian Octavius Peregrine, please. And I just know she hit him with that condescending tone, like she was correcting a toddler who just mispronounced a word. You can feel the intensity. At first, the writer tries to go along with it. I mean, it's her kid, right? Pick your battles. But after a while, it's just exhausting, because who has the time to say a full royal court title every time they address a baby? So the writer finally pushes back. He tells her, respectfully mind you, that while he understands her preference, nicknames are a normal thing. It's not about erasing the child's identity, it's literally just how language works. People shorten names. It's natural, it's human, it's been happening for centuries. But nope, she's not backing down. She accuses him of being dismissive, says he's disrespecting their vision. And get this, she actually claims that by calling her son Max, he's erasing her child's identity. Ma'am, your child is not an ancient artifact in danger of being lost to history. He is a baby who, by the way, does not care at all what he's called right now. And now it's escalated to threats. She's apparently so upset that she's considering limiting contact between the writer and his nephew. Yes, over a nickname. Because, in her mind, if he refuses to say Maximilian Octavius Peregrine every single time, then he clearly does not respect his nephew enough to be around him. Now, their parents, they think she's overreacting. But some of her friends, they're taking her side, saying that parents deserve to have their child's name used as intended. And okay, let's be fair here. Parents do get a say in their child's name. That's completely reasonable. But at what point does this cross the line into pure absurdity? Because let's be real, once this kid gets older, he's going to have a nickname at school, at sports practice, at work, literally everywhere. It's inevitable. And what's she going to do then? Show up at his college dorm and demand that his roommates call him Maximilian Octavius Peregrine in full every single time? This isn't about respect. This is about control. So, is the writer the asshole here? Absolutely not. Honestly, he's being patient. More patient than most people would be. Because at some point, you just gotta let people speak naturally. No one is saying she can't love her kid's full name, but demanding that everyone else recite it like they're announcing a medieval king, yeah. That's just not how the world works. Am I the asshole for not giving my estranged father's wife the money he sent me? Oh, this one is a mess. And I mean the kind of mess where the audacity levels are off the charts. So let's break this down. The writer, 21F, grew up without her father. And not in the we drifted apart way. No, this man actively avoided supporting her. He left when she was 2, refused to pay child support, and when the system tracked him down, what did he do? Did he step up? Did he take responsibility? Nope, he quit his job and even went to jail just to avoid paying for his own child. That's how far he was willing to go to escape responsibility. And eventually the writer's mom, probably exhausted beyond belief, stopped chasing after him. Because the point's of fighting someone who refuses to be found. Fast forward years later and suddenly this man is back, living just an hour away. No apology, no explanation. Just existing like he didn't disappear for 2 decades. And the writer doesn't even hear from him. She finds out through her paternal aunt that not only is he alive and well, but he's also got a whole new family, a wife, more kids, living his life like he didn't leave a daughter behind. And here's where things get interesting. December rolls around, and out of nowhere, this guy leaves something for the writer at her aunt's house. Not a letter, not an apology, a check. And not just pocket change, a big check. Now, the writer does what any decent person would do. She tries to give it to her mom because, let's be real, if anyone deserves that money, it's her. But her mom, she shuts it down. She tells the writer to keep it because at the end of the day, he owed her. This wasn't some kind gesture, it was the bare minimum. So the writer keeps the check, cashes it, and honestly, good for her. But then, oh, here comes the real drama. Because guess who comes knocking? Not the deadbeat dad. Nope, his wife. This woman tracks the writer down, not even directly, but through her aunt, and demands the money back. Not asks, not explains, demands. Why? Because apparently that money was meant for her kids. Excuse me? Her kids? So let me get this straight. Her husband, a man who literally ran from his legal obligation to support his first child, decided for the first time in 2 decades to actually acknowledge the daughter he abandoned, and now she's mad. Oh, but it gets worse. She doesn't take no for an answer. She shows up again. And this time, when the writer tells her it's not her problem, the aunt steps in and threatens to call the cops. And this woman still doesn't back down. A few days later, she comes back. And this time, the aunt actually follows through and calls the cops on her. And what does this woman do? Does she finally realize that she's out of line? No. She leaves a message calling the writer selfish and entitled and saying she stole from her kids. Ma'am, your husband, not the writer, made the decision to give away that money. If you have a problem with that, take it up with him. But instead, she goes after the writer, the child who was left behind, as if she's the villain here. Absolutely not. So is the writer the asshole? Not even close. If anything, she showed way more grace than this situation deserved. Because that money, that wasn't a gift. It was a debt, a long overdue debt. And the writer was well within her right to keep it. If his wife is mad, that's between her and her husband, the same man who had no issue leaving a child to struggle for years. The writer didn't take anything from her kids, but you know who did? Their father. Am I the asshole for telling my sister nobody was surprised when her kid said he didn't care she was alive or not? Oh, this one is heavy, and honestly, not surprising. Let's get into it. The writer comes from a big family, 5 siblings in total, and it sounds like their parents really tried to do things right. They didn't force their kids down any particular path, didn't put unfair expectations on them, and just wanted them to grow and find success in their own way. But for the oldest sister, that wasn't enough. No, she saw this relaxed approach to parenting as lazy and unmotivated. She thought ambition had to be forced, and once she graduated law school, she pretty much distanced herself from the rest of the family. Then she had a son, and oh boy, that poor kid. From the moment he was born, he wasn't a child. He was a project. A blueprint for success, reading at age 2, piano lessons at age 4, tutors from the moment he could walk, no free time, no childhood, just constant pressure, and predictably, it broke him. At 16, he attempted suicide. And not just anywhere, he tried to end his life at the hospital where his own father worked. That alone speaks volumes. He wasn't just drowning, he wanted the people responsible for his suffering to see it firsthand. And then, 5 months in a ward, 3 months in a group home. That's not a rebellious teenager acting out, that's a child who was pushed to his absolute limit. The moment he was out, he chose to stay with the writer, the only sibling without kids, living in a spacious home where he could finally have a sense of freedom. And what did his father do? He woke up. This man, who once went along with his wife's militant parenting, suddenly saw the damage. He got therapy. He worked on rebuilding a real relationship with his son, and now the kid is doing better. He's back with his father, going to medical school, and actually living instead of just existing under pressure. But the mother? She doubled down. Instead of realizing she had driven her own son to the brink, she blamed everyone else. Her husband? Weak. Her son? Weak. Her family? Weak. And what's worse? She said it out loud. In court, during the custody battle, she literally said, "I don't care if he feels bad. This is life. You either climb the ladder or you fall down. If he fell down, there is nothing we can do. Life goes on." What kind of mother says that about her own child? Even the judge was disgusted. And when a judge, who has probably seen some horrible parenting cases, flat out calls you a terrible person, you know you messed up. But karma comes for everyone, and last January, she had a mini stroke. And suddenly, she starts reflecting on her life. She reaches out to her son, probably expecting a tearful reunion, an opportunity for redemption, and instead, he tells her, "I don't care if you're alive or not." Brutal, but also completely earned. And then she goes crying to the writer, looking for sympathy, looking for some kind of validation that she's the victim here. But the writer, they keep it real. What were you expecting, sis? Click. End of conversation. And now the whole family is turning on the writer, saying they should have been supportive. Excuse me? Supportive of what? Of the woman who abused her son into a suicide attempt? Of the woman who treated parenting like a corporate strategy? Of the woman who had zero remorse until she found herself alone? No, absolutely not. Let's be clear. This wasn't a surprise. Her son didn't cut her off out of nowhere. This was years in the making. And now, after she's lost her husband, her son, and the respect of even a courtroom judge, she wants sympathy? Sorry, but actions have consequences. So, is the writer the asshole? Not even close. If anything, they're the only one in the family being honest. Because let's be real, when you treat people like stepping stones, don't be shocked when they decide to stop carrying your weight. Very awkward moment during sex between me, 25M, and she, 25F. Literally walked off immediately. Am I the asshole? Oh, this one is wild. We're talking about a situation that went from hot to horrifying in a matter of seconds. And the aftermath? Pure chaos. Let's set the scene. The writer, a 25-year-old guy, matches with a woman on Hinge. And from the very first interaction, she is coming on strong. Not just the usual flirty back and forth, she's love bombing him. If you've never been on the receiving end of love bombing, let me tell you, it's intoxicating. Someone makes you feel like you're the greatest person on earth, like you've finally found the one, and it all happens way too fast. But the writer, he's eating it up. And hey, can you blame him? When someone showers you with attention and affection, it's hard not to fall for it. So they go all in. They're texting constantly, sending snaps back and forth, staying on the phone for hours, the whole honeymoon phase speed run. Then after just 2 weeks, they plan their first ever date. And this isn't some casual meetup at a coffee shop. This woman is committing. She drives an hour to his place because for some reason, she refuses to let him come pick her up. Red flag? Maybe. But hey, the date goes great. They hit up a nice restaurant, have some solid conversations, enjoy their dinner, no issues, no weird vibes. Then they go back to his place. They're talking, laughing, getting comfortable, and soon things start heating up. But before anything goes too far, they both agree no sex tonight, which, honestly, good on them. No need to rush. Just keep it fun, keep it flirty. And then, oh boy, she flips the script. 1 minute, they're just messing around, keeping it light. The next, she's insisting on going down on him. Now, the writer is confused, not because he minds, but because she was the one who said no sex. So he hesitates for a second and asks, wait, I thought we weren't doing anything tonight? And just like that, another switch up. She agrees, but then she completely undresses, lies back, spreads her legs, and expects him to return the favor. And this, folks, is where things take a sudden stomach-turning turn. The writer leans in and gets hit with a wall of stench so powerful it might as well have been a physical force. Not sweat, not just a little body odor. We're talking straight up sewage levels of bad, like so strong it could alter the course of history. Like so potent that his survival instincts immediately kicked in. And listen, this isn't about shaming anyone. Bodies are bodies. They do things. But if you're expecting someone to get that up close and personal, hygiene is non-negotiable. And the writer, he panics. His brain short circuits. His mouth starts working before his brain catches up, and before he can stop himself, he blurts out, can I wipe it with a tissue first? No. Look, I get it. He was in fight or flight mode. His primal instincts took over. But saying that out loud, there was no coming back from that. And her reaction? Immediate. She sniffs her own fingers, checks herself, and instead of acknowledging the situation or maybe laughing it off, she drops this absolute gem of a response. It's because both holes are so close, so this would smell like that. Excuse me? I'm sorry, what? That is not an explanation. That is a desperate attempt at damage control. And then she bolts. She gets up, gets dressed, and says she can't do this. She literally walks out, never to return. And honestly, that's for the best. Now, the writer is left wondering, was he the asshole? And look, could he have handled it better? Absolutely. Instead of blurting out that, maybe he could have just stopped, made an excuse, and changed the mood. But was he wrong? No. He was put in an impossible situation. He didn't mock her, didn't shame her, didn't react cruelly. He was just stunned and honest. And let's be real, he had every right to be. Because at the end of the day, this wasn't just about the smell. It was about her complete lack of self-awareness. If you're expecting someone to go down on you, basic hygiene is not optional. And trying to explain it away like it's just a normal part of anatomy? Yeah. No. So am I the asshole? Absolutely not. The only thing the writer is guilty of is not thinking before speaking. And honestly, if she was mature, she wouldn't have bolted like that. She could have laughed it off, excused herself, fixed the issue, and then continued. But nope. Instead, she chose violence. So, to the writer, you may have lost a date, but you dodged a bigger problem. And to the girl, maybe invest in some wet wipes. Am I the asshole for breaking up with my girlfriend because she refuses to cut off her guy friend after I did the same for her? All right, folks, this one is about fairness, double standards, and whether what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So let's dive in. The writer was in a committed relationship, and at some point in the past, a new coworker joined his office. Now, she wasn't just any coworker. She was cool, nerdy, shared his interests, basically the kind of person you'd naturally get along with. And before long, they started gaming together outside of work. Now, let's pause for a second. No red flags yet, right? Well, not according to his girlfriend. She hated the idea of this friendship. Didn't matter that it was innocent. Didn't matter that the writer was upfront about it. She saw another woman spending time with her boyfriend and thought, nope, not happening. And so it became a whole thing. Arguments, discomfort, jealousy. Eventually, the writer caves. He agrees to cut ties with his coworker outside of work. And just like that, problem solved, at least for her. She was thrilled. Her boyfriend had proven his loyalty, made the ultimate sacrifice, and prioritized her feelings. Now, fast forward a few years later, enter the new guy. He's a cousin of one of her friends, and suddenly she and this dude are spending a lot of time together. And the writer, deja vu. The exact same discomfort his girlfriend felt all those years ago, he's feeling it now. The difference? This time, she's on the other side of it. So he does what any rational person would do. He brings it up. He tells her, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. And what does she say? Oh, come on, nothing is happening. Sound familiar? Because it's the exact same argument he made back then, but when it was her feeling uncomfortable, she got what she wanted, but when it's him feeling uncomfortable, suddenly the rules don't apply. So he tries one last time, gives her the chance to recognize the hypocrisy, gives her a chance to respect his feelings the same way he respected hers, and she refuses. So he ends it. And honestly, can you blame him? Let's break this down. This wasn't about controlling who she could be friends with. This wasn't some toxic, possessive, you can't have male friends situation. This was about basic fairness. If she had never cared about guy friends or female friends, that would be one thing. But she did. She cared enough to force the writer to cut someone off. And yet, when the roles were reversed, she wouldn't even consider it. That's not equality. That's not a partnership. That's just selfish. So is the writer the asshole? Absolutely not. If anything, he just dodged a bullet. Because if someone only enforces rules when it benefits them, imagine what else they'd be comfortable being one-sided about. So good on you, writer, because if a relationship is built on double standards, it was never a healthy one to begin with. Am I the asshole because I don't think my husband should go to Burning Man, Africa when we have a 5-month-old baby at home? All right, folks, buckle up. Oh wait, scratch that, because this one is a ride. Let's set the scene. The writer is a new mom, just 5 months into this whole parenting journey. And if you know anything about newborns, you know that 5 months in, you're still in the trenches. Sleep? What's that? Free time? Doesn't exist. Sanity? Hanging on by a thread. And yet her husband, a full-grown 37-year-old man, thinks now is the perfect time to pack up, fly 10,000 miles away and disappear into the desert for a full week at Africa Burn, which is essentially Burning Man, but in South Africa. Now, let's pause. A dad wanting some time for himself? Fine. A short getaway? Understandable. But a week-long, no-contact, off-the-grid, drug-fueled festival on the other side of the world? Sir, read the room. Because let's be clear, this isn't just about the writer being left alone. She's not saying, oh, I can't handle the baby by myself. She's saying, I don't want you to completely vanish into the void for a whole week while we have a 5-month-old at home. And that's fair. It's one thing if you were going on a business trip or visiting family. But this is a party, a week-long rave in the middle of nowhere where he's literally unreachable. And the worst part? He already did this once. While the writer was 8 months pregnant, this man was off at a festival with his friends, and she let that one slide. She supported him, understood that it was something he enjoyed. And now, just a few months into parenthood, he's trying to do it again. And his solution? Well, babe, you can go do something with your friends for a week too. Sir, she is breastfeeding. She is literally physically attached to keeping your baby alive. She can't just take off for a week, even if she wanted to. And here's where things start getting even more frustrating, because he knew she wasn't okay with this. He actually brought up Africa Burn while she was pregnant, and she told him exactly how much it upset her. And what does he do? He waits, sits on it, brings it up again months later, like it's somehow a brand new conversation. Like, maybe, just maybe, she magically changed her mind after spending 5 months waking up every 2 hours to feed a baby. So let's talk about what's really happening here. Because this isn't just about a festival, this is about priorities. The writer isn't saying her husband can never go to a festival again. She's not trying to control him. She's saying, hey, can we maybe just not do this right now? Can we maybe not pretend like leaving your newborn child for a drug-fueled party on another continent is just a normal thing to do? Can we maybe make decisions as a family instead of you just deciding you're going and expecting me to deal with it? Because at the end of the day, this isn't even about permission. The writer isn't saying she won't let him go. She's saying it makes her feel terrible that he even wants to. And honestly, I don't blame her. So is she the asshole? Absolutely not. She's not asking for much. She's asking for basic partnership. If he was single, sure, go to every festival under the sun. But he's a father now. That doesn't mean his life is over, but it does mean he has to adjust his priorities. And if he can't understand that, well, maybe he needs to do some serious thinking about whether he's really ready for this whole parenthood thing. Am I the asshole for denying my sister's lies in front of her in-laws? Oh, this one is messy. We've got family drama, lies, and a completely shattered engagement. And all of it over a dinner conversation. So, let's break this down. The writer, 25F, has an older sister, Kate, 30F, but their relationship has never been close. And why? Because Kate has resented the writer's existence from the start. Their dad was married before, had Kate, then divorced her mom, and later remarried and had the writer. And apparently Kate never let that go. Now, according to Kate, their dad was horrible, always comparing her to the writer, calling her difficult, making it clear that he never loved her mother, and essentially treating the writer as the golden child. On the other hand, Dad says this is complete nonsense. And not just Dad, but also the writer's mom, grandparents, and pretty much the entire family. So at this point, it's a classic case of he said, she said, but from the writer's perspective, it's never really involved her. She was just living her life. Until now. Because out of nowhere, Kate reaches out, she's engaged, and she has a favor to ask. And oh boy, this is where things start spiraling. Turns out Kate's future mother-in-law is very family-oriented, like borderline obsessive about it. And apparently, she's not thrilled that Kate is estranged from her family. In fact, she's concerned because in her mind, if Kate cut off her own family so easily, what's stopping her from doing the same thing to her husband one day? So what does Kate do? She doesn't try to mend fences. She doesn't have some heartfelt reunion with her family. Nope. She just asks the writer to put on a show. Essentially, she wants to parade the writer around in front of her in-laws to make it look like they have this loving, supportive, healthy relationship. And the writer, she doesn't hate Kate, so she agrees. No big deal, right? Wrong, because this little family dinner takes a turn. At some point, future Mill, who, again, is heavily invested in this whole family dynamic thing, mentions how happy she is that despite the abuse they suffered, the sisters still managed to stay close. And the writer is sitting there like, wait, what abuse? And immediately, Kate starts panicking. She tries to change the subject, she tries to move on quickly, but nope, because future Mill doubles down. She tells the writer that Kate told her horrific stories about how they were mistreated, neglected, abused by their parents. And at this point, the writer is faced with a choice. Does she sit there and play along, or does she tell the truth? And let's be real, what else was she supposed to do? She tells the truth. She clarifies that no, they were never abused. In fact, they had a comfortable upbringing, loving parents, more than enough money, and zero of the things Kate claimed. And at this moment, everything explodes, because future Mill is furious. This isn't just a little misunderstanding. This isn't just a white lie. Kate painted an entire fake history to manipulate her way into this family, and future Mill lets her have it. She calls her a liar, a manipulator, accuses her of trying to worm her way into their family through dishonesty, and the result, engagement over. Kate's fiancé doesn't trust her anymore. The in-laws hate her, and now Kate is blaming the writer for ruining her life. But let's get one thing straight. The writer didn't ruin anything. Kate ruined her own life. She lied, and not a small, harmless lie. She dragged their parents' names through the mud. She built an entire fake backstory to make herself look like a victim, to gain sympathy, to fit into a family that probably would have accepted her without all the dramatics. And when the truth came out, she didn't own up to it. She blamed the writer for not lying along with her. So is the writer the asshole? Absolutely not. And let's be real, if it wasn't this dinner, the truth would have come out eventually. Because when you build a relationship on lies, it's only a matter of time before it crumbles. Am I the asshole for refusing to stop bringing my wife's homemade Mexican lunches to work? All right, let's paint the picture. The writer is out here grinding away in construction, long backbreaking shifts, and his wife, she's up at 4 a.m. crafting restaurant-quality meals just so he doesn't have to suffer through a sad gas station sandwich like the rest of his coworkers. And let's be clear, these aren't just lunches. We're talking birria, tamales, pozole, fresh, handmade tortillas. She even packs fresh salsa and horchata. This man isn't just eating, he's dining. And naturally, the guys at work notice. At first, it's harmless, light jokes. Dang, you bringing a whole restaurant today? Where's our piñata? All right, fine. A little teasing never killed anyone. But then Rick decides that this isn't funny anymore. Rick is not amused. Rick, a man who lives off microwave burgers and crushed dreams, has had enough. The final straw? The writer brings in mole with rice, a rich, flavorful, slow-cooked dish, and Rick acts like someone set off a stink bomb in the break room. That stuff reeks, man. Excuse me? It reeks? Rick, are we going to pretend that the break room hasn't already been violated by the scent of microwaved fish, day-old pizza, and whatever unholy ramen concoction some of these guys are inhaling? But no, this is where Rick draws the line. Because suddenly, it's not just about the smell. Now, the writer is showing off, because nothing screams bragging like eating food your wife lovingly made for you. And while Rick is stewing in his misery, the rest of the crew, they're looking at the writer's lunch like it's the Holy Grail. One of the guys even asks if his wife can send a little extra if he pays, because let's be real, who wouldn't want a bite of that? But Rick is fuming. And here's where things get even worse. The writer's wife hears about it, and instead of being rightfully offended that some bitter coworker is policing her husband's food, she does something heartbreaking. She offers to pack less smelly food. She's willing to tone down her love. She's willing to strip away flavor, culture, and effort just to make sure the writer doesn't have to deal with unnecessary drama. And honestly, that's where we have a problem. Because let's be real, this isn't about food. This is about jealousy. Rick isn't mad about the smell. Rick is mad about the love. Rick is mad that the writer has a wife who cares enough to wake up before dawn just to make sure he eats well. Rick is mad that every time the writer pulls out his lunch, it reminds him that his own life is dry, unseasoned, and void of joy. And instead of being an adult about it, he's lashing out like a child who wasn't invited to the birthday party. So now the writer is stuck in a tough spot. On one hand, his wife's cooking is the highlight of his day. On the other, he spends more time at work than anywhere else. And he doesn't want to be drowning in unnecessary tension. But here's the thing. Who's really causing the tension? Not the writer. Not his wife. Just Rick. So, is the writer the asshole? Absolutely not. If anything, Rick is the asshole for trying to make someone else feel guilty over something that has nothing to do with him. Rick can either get over it or start bringing his own meals that don't taste like depression. But expecting the writer to downgrade his life just to make someone else feel better? That's insane. Am I the asshole for not letting my wife's affair partner attend her funeral? Loss is complicated. It doesn't come neatly wrapped in sadness, dressed in black, following some predictable script. Sometimes it comes with rage, with resentment, with a kind of grief that burns, not just aches. And the writer knows that all too well, because before his wife was taken in a tragic car accident, she had already left. Physically, emotionally, romantically. For over a year and a half, she was with someone else. She wasn't just cheating, she was in love. That's what she and her affair partner claimed. That's what she told the writer before she left him and their kids behind. But now she's gone, and all of it. Every betrayal, every painful moment is tangled up in the grief. Because even though she hurt him, she was still his wife. She was still the mother of his children. She was still the woman he once built a life with, and now he has to bury her. The responsibility of the funeral falls on him. The costs, the planning, the emotional weight of it all. And on top of that, he has to hold his kids together. Teenagers who just lost their mother. Kids who, no matter how much pain they might have felt from the separation, never imagined it would end like this. Then comes the affair partner. He reaches out, not with condolences, not with respect, but to ask for an invite to her funeral, to the place where her children will mourn her, where her husband, yes, still her husband, because the divorce wasn't finalized, will have to stand there and say goodbye. And the writer's response? A hard, unshakable off. And who could blame him? This man helped destroy his marriage, helped take his wife away from their family. And now he wants to grieve alongside them? Let's just sit with that for a second. Imagine standing at a funeral next to your teenage kids already drowning in grief and looking up to see the man she left you for. The man who got to be her comfort while you were left picking up the pieces. The man who was probably whispering "I love you" in her ear while you were lying awake at night, wondering where it all went wrong. How is that fair? How is the writer supposed to let that happen? And yes, some might say, well, she loved him. He deserves to grieve too. Fine, let him grieve, but he doesn't get to grieve here. He doesn't get to stand in the same room as her husband and children and act like he's an equal part of this loss. Because here's the thing. The writer is not just mourning his wife. He's mourning the life she threw away, the love she abandoned, the family she walked away from. But the affair partner, he didn't have to feel that. He didn't have to sleep alone, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she ever truly loved him. He didn't have to watch their kids struggle with the reality that mom chose someone else. He didn't have to carry the weight of being the one left behind. And now, he doesn't get to be part of the closure either. Grieve on your own time. Mourn her in your own way. But this funeral? This is for the family she left behind. The writer is not the asshole. He's a man doing what little he can to protect his kids, protect his own heart, and set a boundary that was already broken too many times before. Am I the asshole for refusing to make the dessert table for my sister-in-law's baby shower? All right, let's break this down. The writer is a professional pastry chef. That's right. This isn't just a hobby, a cute little side gig, or something they do for fun. This is their career, their craft, their literal livelihood. And yet, somehow, they've been turned into the family's unpaid baker. Let's rewind a little. The writer already went out of their way to make this woman's wedding cake for free, not a discount, not at cost, completely free. And in return, not even a thank you, not a text, not a card, not a simple, hey, I really appreciate what you did for my wedding. Nothing. But now, suddenly, it's time for her baby shower. And guess what? She wants another freebie. Not just a cake this time, an entire dessert table. And if that wasn't enough, the one leading the charge on the guilt tripping isn't even the sister-in-law herself, it's the writer's mom. Because of course it is. Now let's talk about this sister-in-law's energy. She never goes out of her way to acknowledge the writer, doesn't initiate conversation, doesn't bother with common courtesy, and let's talk about the baby shower double standard. When it was the writer's baby shower, was this sister-in-law jumping in to help plan? Offering to contribute? Making anything at all? Nope. But now that she needs something, she's suddenly more than happy to benefit from the writer's time, talent, and effort. And the mom, instead of backing the writer up, instead of recognizing that maybe, just maybe, this is a completely reasonable boundary, she's out here acting like the writer is some kind of cold-hearted villain for not wanting to be used. And let's be real, because that's what this is. If you don't show basic gratitude for someone's work, but you're still expecting more of it, you're not asking for help. You're demanding free labor. And yeah, sure, the mom offered to pay for ingredients, but let's be honest. Ingredients aren't the expensive part. It's not like the writer is running some kind of magical bake now, pay later business where flour and sugar are their only concerns. What about the hours spent baking, decorating, planning the entire dessert table? What about the literal expertise that the writer brings to the table, expertise that other people actually pay for? This is what always happens when you have a skill that's seen as fun or creative. People don't respect the work behind it. They don't think about the time, the labor, or the years spent perfecting the craft. They just assume it's no big deal. But here's the thing, it is a big deal. And the writer has every right to say no. And if that makes them the villain in the family's eyes, so be it. Because being a villain is better than being a doormat. Am I the asshole for telling my mom she can't babysit after she cut my daughter's hair? All right, buckle up, scratch that. Strap in, because this one is going to get me heated. Let's set the scene. The writer's 6-year-old daughter, Lily, has long, curly hair that she absolutely adores. And we're not talking about just hair. This is a whole ritual, a bonding experience between Lily and her mother. They do hair masks, they try out new braids, they cherish those curls. This is not just about appearance. This is about identity. So what happens when Karen, yes, she has earned this nickname, offers to babysit? She takes scissors and hacks it off, and not because Lily asked, not because it was damaged, not because of any reasonable explanation, but because she decided it was too unruly. First of all, who asked you, Karen? Did Lily complain about her hair? No. Did the writer's wife, who has been putting love and care into Lily's hair, ask for help? No. Did Karen even bother to check in with Lily's parents before grabbing a pair of scissors like she's starring in some horror movie called Attack of the Unruly Curls? No, She just took it upon herself to make an irreversible decision about someone else's child. And the kicker, she didn't even think she did anything wrong. She proudly announced she fixed it, like she just saved the world from some terrible disaster, when in reality, she destroyed something that Lily loved. And then she follows it up with the worst possible excuse. It's just hair, it'll grow back. No, it's not just hair. Hair, especially for a child, is a part of their self-expression, their confidence, their routine. And even if it was just hair, it wasn't your decision to make, Karen. And let's talk about Lily. This little girl who has spent her whole young life taking pride in her curls is now devastated. She cried for hours. She kept saying she didn't want to look like a boy. Do you know what that tells me? It tells me that her hair was part of her identity. It made her feel special. It made her feel beautiful. And now she feels violated. And Karen just stood there. No apology, no remorse, just doubling down and acting like the writer and his wife are the bad guys for reacting. And then she has the audacity, the sheer gall, to turn around and say, "You're being disrespectful by taking away my grandparent rights." Excuse me, Karen, this is not a custody agreement. You are not entitled to unsupervised time with someone else's child. Babysitting is a privilege, not a right. And you abuse that privilege. And let's not forget about the sister's reaction. Oh, maybe Karen was overwhelmed. Overwhelmed? By what? Did the hair attack her? Was it so unruly that she had no choice but to go full Edward Scissorhands on it? Karen was not overwhelmed. Karen was controlling. She saw something she didn't like, and instead of respecting Lily's autonomy or, asking permission, she took it upon herself to erase it. So now, the writer and his wife are setting a boundary. They're saying, we can't trust you to make good decisions for our child, so we're not leaving her with you alone again. And that is completely reasonable. And what does Karen do? Throws a tantrum, because in her mind, she did nothing wrong. And honestly, that's exactly why this was the right decision. If she had apologized, if she'd shown any remorse, maybe there would be a conversation to be had. But she didn't. She doubled down. She made excuses, and now she's playing the victim. So is the writer the asshole for saying, nope, you're not babysitting anymore? Absolutely not. Karen showed zero respect for her granddaughter's feelings, zero respect for the writer and his wife's parenting, and zero understanding of why this was a huge breach of trust. At the end of the day, Lily's feelings matter more than Karen's ego. So no, the writer is not the asshole. Karen, 100%. Am I the asshole for telling my sister she can't bring her fake emotional support dog to my wedding? All right, let's talk about boundaries. Because apparently the writer's sister thinks that her completely untrained fake registered pit bull deserves a VIP invite to someone else's wedding. And not just any wedding. The writer's own, outdoor, beautifully planned, once-in-a-lifetime wedding. And let's get something straight right off the bat. This isn't about an trained, legitimate service animal. This isn't a seeing eye dog. This isn't a medical alert dog. This is a dog that has been dubiously certified through some sketchy online certificate that probably cost $25 and required no proof of actual training. And how do we know it's not legit? Because this dog is out here acting like an unsupervised toddler, barking nonstop, jumping on people, peeing on furniture. This is not a working dog. This is a liability in fur form. And yet the sister insists that she needs him there for emotional support. Now, let's take a second and acknowledge something important. Mental health is real. Anxiety is real. Emotional support animals can be incredibly helpful. But this ain't it. Because let's talk about who actually needs support in this situation. First up, the writer. This is her wedding day. A day that she has planned, poured time and effort into, a day that is supposed to be about her and her fiancé. She is allergic to dogs, not kind of uncomfortable around them. Allergic, as in itchy eyes, hives, asthma symptoms allergic. So now, instead of enjoying her wedding day stress-free, she's supposed to be popping allergy meds, feeling exhausted, and risking a full-blown asthma attack? For what? for a dog that doesn't even behave. And you know what? The writer still tried to be accommodating. She offered to set up a quiet space if her sister needed a break during the wedding, which, by the way, was so much more than she needed to offer. And what does the sister say? You're being unsupportive. Excuse me, unsupportive? Unsupportive would be saying, suck it up, I don't care about your anxiety. Unsupportive would be banning her from the wedding entirely because she didn't want to deal with drama. Instead, the writer tried to find a solution that worked for both of them. But no, that's not enough. Because what the sister actually wants is to be catered to at all costs. And then, here comes the mom with the classic, just let it go, keep the peace. You know what keeping the peace really means here? Forcing the writer to sacrifice her own comfort, her own well-being, and her own special day just to avoid upsetting her sister. And that's not keeping the peace, that's giving in to entitlement. And then the sister hits the ultimate guilt trip move. If my dog isn't allowed, I'm not coming. All right? Bye. Because let's be real, this was never about the dog. If it were, she would have appreciated the compromise. She would have said, I understand your allergies, I'll figure something else out. Instead, she made it all about her, which tells me that this isn't even about her anxiety. This is about control, because how dare the writer set a boundary? How dare she say no? And that right there, that's the real problem. So is the writer the asshole for saying, no, you cannot bring your disruptive, untrained, fake certified dog to my wedding where I will be suffering from allergies the entire time? No. She is setting a perfectly reasonable boundary, and if her sister chooses to miss the wedding over this, that's her decision, not the writer's, not the asshole. Am I the asshole for being mad at my girlfriend because she fell asleep during sex? All right, strap in, because this one is a slow descent into absolute madness. At first, this story sounds innocent enough. Just a cute couple having a cozy night in, popcorn, a scary movie, cuddles. Sounds like the perfect date night, right? But, oh no. This is not just some normal night. This is a full-blown psychological horror story with plot twists so insane, even M, Night Shyamalan, would be like, damn, that's a lot. So the writer and his girlfriend wrap up their movie night and things start heating up. They head upstairs, clothes come off, and everything is going as expected. Until she falls asleep, like dead to the world, not distracted, not bored, not phoning it in while thinking about her grocery list, fully unconscious, and not just for a few seconds either. The writer literally has time to snap out of the moment, look down, and realize his girlfriend is in full-on REM sleep. Like, how? Listen, I don't care how tired you are. I don't care if you had the most exhausting day of your life. If you're able to completely pass out mid-act, something is seriously wrong. And at this point, writer is naturally concerned, because there's only two real explanations here. One, she was beyond exhausted and should have just said no from the start. Something medically or mentally is going on, and this is not normal behavior. So, like a normal, decent human being, he gently wakes her up. He gently wakes her up. And that's when this whole story takes a hard left turn into crazy town. She wakes up pissed, and not just annoyed, not just groggy and confused. I'm talking full-blown rage mode. She lashes out at him, saying she hates him for waking her up and that she wants him to go away. Excuse me, what? Now, if this were any other situation, like if someone woke you up from a nice nap, sure, maybe you'd be a little grumpy, but falling asleep mid-sex and then acting like he's the bad guy for noticing, at this point, any sane person would be confused as hell. But okay, writer does the mature thing. He backs off, he gives her space, and then it gets worse. A few hours later, he wakes up around 3 a.m., sees her getting a drink of water, and like a normal, reasonable boyfriend, he asks if she's feeling better. And she responds by screaming at the top of her lungs, like he's a serial killer who just crawled in through her window, like she has never seen this man in her life. And then she tells him to get out. Not out of the bedroom, not go sleep on the couch. No. She demands he leave the entire house at 3 a.m. when he lives 2 hours away. At this point, Ryder is running on pure confusion and exhaustion. But what can he do? She's shoving him out, and he's too tired to fight. So, like an absolute trooper, he packs up his stuff and drives 2 hours through the middle of the Nosted, mentally drained and probably questioning every life decision that led him to this moment. And then, at the final boss level of this insanity, she texts him the next morning, asking why he left. Now, at this point, I'd be questioning if I was living in a parallel universe. Ryder, absolutely done with this nonsense, calls her and lays it all out. Everything that happened, and her response, she has no idea what he's talking about. And not in a, oh my God, I was sleepwalking, I'm so sorry kind of way. No, she is acting like he made it all up. Like, imagine the whole thing. He imagined the whole thing. And that's when the final straw breaks. Ryder is done. He says, "We're done," hangs up and blocks her. And what does she do? Continues acting confused. Like she's the victim here, like he's the crazy one. At this point, good for him, because this was not normal. Was she sleepwalking? Maybe. Was she lying to cover up some other weird behavior? Possibly. Was she actually insane? Who knows? But one thing is for sure, Ryder dodged a whole damn bullet. So, is he the asshole? Absolutely not. In fact, he is a survivor.